Hello, and welcome to episode 5 from the Equestrian Mums Club podcast. Today I am flying solo as I am asking the question, how will the relationship with my partner change when having a baby? So, becoming a parent is something that most people do with a significant other. We know there are some of you that don't. But today we're going to be talking to a significant other who knows a particular podcast host better than most. So today I'm going to be joined by Alex, Sophie's partner, to get his perspective on becoming a parent. In this particular episode, I'm going to explore how their relationship has changed as they found out that Sophie was pregnant and beyond, and how everyday habits, roles and chores can change within a relationship. So, what did they both used to do before pregnancy versus during, and now after that they've got Olive? Kicking on into episode 5, we're going to talk about relationships with partners. Here's Alex. A brief introduction, sir. Who are you? What's your name?
My name's Alex. I'm Sophie's partner.
How old are you?
39.
39. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Coming soon, is it?
July next year. So,
cool.
Nice summer.
And how many children do you have, Alex?
Just the one, and an annoying dog.
And an annoying dog. Is the annoying dog your dog, or Sophie's dog, or now adoptively yours as well?
Yeah, it's now adoptively mine. Probably more mine than Sophie's now, to be fair.
And how many horses do you have, Benny?
We've got one that we own, and then another 3 liveries, a few hunters that we deal with as well. So.
And I gather, having known you for a little while now, you ride yourself.
Yeah, I work in the horse racing industry, so I ride 5 or 6 in the mornings and deal with horses in the afternoons as well. So.
Lucky you. And do you ride any at home here?
Yeah, I've ridden Sophie's, and I do have to ride the hunters as well, occasionally, very occasionally. Bit out of my comfort zone, but yeah.
Why is it out of your comfort zone?
Horse racing is very different, so riding hunters and happy hackers / eventers is not really my forte.
Not really a thing. Okay, free trunk. How would you describe your family dynamic here? Are you married, single, long-term relationship, hanging on by a thread?
Yeah, we're clinging on. Happy, I hope.
Happy, you hope. And how long have you guys been together?
I would like to say.
You wouldn't like to say? 3 months? 4?
Longer than a year.
Longer than a year. Okay. And Olive is a year.
Olive is a year.
On Sunday.
Sunday, yeah.
Cool. And how did you guys meet?
Sophie came to train to ride in a charity race on a racehorse in a yard that I worked at. So,
what was it that drew you to Sophie, or did she pursue you?
Sophie pursued me because I'm.
Yeah. Sophie pursued you.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. And when you found out you were expecting Olive, how did you feel?
Over the moon, really happy. We didn't know whether we were having a boy or a girl, so that was something that was a bit of a surprise to us, which we wanted it to be a surprise, but always wanted a daughter, to be fair, so very happy.
You always wanted kids?
Yeah, I did early on, then I thought it passed me by, so yeah, glad to get a chance at it. Not doing too bad, I don't think.
Not doing too badly.
She's doing all right.
And did you have any big concerns going into parenthood?
Not really. I mean, financial pressures and all that sort of stuff, and obviously we've got the horses that take up a lot of our time anyway. We don't have a lot of spare time anyway, so to throw a baby into that's quite difficult. But no more so than anyone else would probably have.
Now that you've had Olive and she's nearly a year old, do you feel that you've had any really big triumphs together as a team?
Triumphs, probably not. I think probably loads of little triumphs. I think, just getting through the winter is difficult for us with the hunters. And, we had Olive in the winter, so we have to do the hunters right through until the end of March. So that was a bit of a slog, shall we say. It's quite, cold with a newborn that we didn't know anything about. So that was a triumph to get through that, and a few nice little holidays we've been on and things. Just a few little, all the little moments that come together.
I think that's the same as horses, right?
Yeah.
You don't really get one big triumph.
No,
It's little moments.
Yeah, exactly, and it all strings together to what you want to achieve with the horse, I think. So.
Nice. And I'm going to ask this: have you experienced any real lows together since becoming pregnant or becoming parents?
Probably, but again, more so due to, it's a difficult life anyway. Horses, it's hard to have horses and work and do everything like that, especially, so like I keep saying, the winter, it's dark all the time. Then when you're at work when it's light, and then you're home when it's dark, and you haven't got time to ride the horse and all that sort of stuff. And again, throwing a baby into that's difficult. So we probably have had a few lows, but we keep plugging away.
No big standout moments of real
No.
falling apart.
I don't think so. No. I wouldn't like to say it anyway, to be fair. No, we'll leave it at
that. And how do you think your relationship with each other has changed since you became mom and
dad? Probably gets probably just stretch it a little bit, because it's difficult anyway, and again, everybody with the financial pressures, it's not easy to work and balance everything, and again, throw the horses into it. They're very expensive to keep, and they take up all your time, so it does stretch it, and it's difficult to do what you would normally do, what you used to do when you've got a baby. The nights out disappear, and by the time you've finished, you're up at 5 a.m. By the time you've finished your day and put Olive down and cooked yourself some tea and whatever, it's
midnight.
It's then 8 o'clock, 8:30, and you sat down.
Is there anything about Sophie that you've discovered since you've become parents that surprised you?
Probably sounds a bit harsh, I suppose. Surprised me how naturally she's taken to being a mum, and how much she absolutely adores Olive, which is because I don't think Sophie was ever picked out as being somebody that wanted kids, perhaps by her friends maybe, but she's just taken to it like a duck to water, and she's been brilliant, and she still finds time to ride the horses and to do all of that and juggle everything, and back at work as well. So I think she's doing a pretty good job, which doesn't surprise me, because she's very hard working and determined, and when she wants something she goes for it. But perhaps the way she just took to motherhood straight away surprised me, or pleased me, shall we say, not surprised.
Yeah. That's really sweet. Is there anything about yourself that you've found surprising along the way?
Surprising. No, not really. No, I don't think so. I'm quite mellow. I'm basically doing exactly the same things, but I've got a baby. So she'll tell you that. So
you are quite mellow, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just doing my best day to day, trying to do my best day to day. So, like I say, the work life's, I'm up at 5 anyway, and so the work doesn't bother me. It doesn't matter how much. If I only get 3 or 4 hours sleep in the evenings, I'll still get up at 5 a.m. to go muck the horses out. So that doesn't matter. Never has done. But again, you add a baby into your spare time, the little bit of spare time you get, it becomes quite tiring through the day. But no, I think I'm doing okay, and I think I've potentially surprised myself that I've done okay. Shall we say?
So we talked a little bit about your horses.
Yeah.
Can you give us a bit of a background on your horse life? So how long have you been doing the job that you've been doing?
Yeah, I went to what they call the racing college in Newmarket when I was probably 17, I think. and then you just get shipped out straight away into a yard, and you're just expected to know everything and do everything. So I worked in racing yards from when I was 17. Well, earlier than that, when I was 15, part time, Saturday work, that sort of stuff. So from when I was 17, and I've lived in various different places around England, wherever the yards were. And I'm now 39 and I'm still doing it, so quite a long time.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but you weren't horsey before racing, were you?
Not horsey so much. I hadn't been around horses. I'd never ridden before I was 17. And my family were they enjoyed watching horse racing. I'd been to the horse racing a lot because there was a couple of courses close to where I lived. So that's kind of how I got into it. I'd watch horses walk, going around the roads, around the lanes and what have you, but it's more horse racing that I was into rather than horses in general. But if you're going to retrain one, ex-race horses are handful, shall we say.
How would you describe Sophie as a horsewoman? And do you feel like your approach, coming from a racing background, differs to hers in any way?
Yeah, probably, because I would do things quicker, and I'll knock out a box in 5 minutes. It'll take 55 minutes, and I very much I love horses, and I love horse racing, and I love all that sort of stuff. But horses, it's work to me. So whereas Sophie, it's a hobby, and she really enjoys. And I love sharing that with Sophie when we go out to the events and what have you. But she probably does things a little bit slower and sort of takes the time, whereas I like to just get it done. Because I also believe that when I'm dealing with the horse at home, it's usually lunchtime, and that's when a horse for me should be relaxed and settled. Whereas if you're taking it out for a hack at lunchtime, then that's when you would ride it. So it's just a different mindset when you're working with them in racing. They get ridden first thing in the morning, and then they're finished until the afternoon. So I just like to leave them alone. And Sophie is a horsewoman. She's very good, actually. I was surprised how good she was. She's a good rider, very good rider. She's rode out with me at a couple of different racing yards, and horses that I thought she potentially might struggle with, and she's had no problem whatsoever. She's very good.
You think she's quite adaptable?
Yeah, very adaptable, yeah. And a lot of people aren't. You can take people who can ride an event style, but they can't ride a racehorse, and eventually they might pick it up. But Sophie picked it up very easily, but she can flip between the two, so she's very good.
I would say overall, during my knowing of Sophie, I think one of her biggest strengths is her adaptability.
Yeah.
She's so quick to change focus when needed and when not needed.
Yeah.
I think that's a real strength.
But her weakness is probably dressage.
Her weakness is dressage.
Let's be honest.
Noted.
She can't adapt to that.
There's an area I can try to beat her at, maybe. Okay, cool. And when you found out that you were both expecting, obviously you've got deliveries here. How did deliveries care and routine change here? If so, how?
Yeah, it kind of just stayed the same. I mean, it was difficult when Sophie was in hospital because she was in there for a week. There was a little complication, so she was in there for a week, which meant deliveries actually had to help us out, which was really good of them. And we've only actually got one full livery, and the other two are part or DIY. So, and they're very good girls. They all work in racing as well because we live in a racing village. So I actually know them from various different jobs, and they're all willing to chip in and help out, and very friendly, and it works for us quite nicely. Again, it's probably the hunters that were difficult because that's sort of a job for us that we have to do, and we can't really ship that off to our friends to do that. Yeah, they'll obviously help out, but we like to do that ourselves. So early on, when it was freezing cold and we had Olive as a 2, 3, 4 week old, it was difficult trying to get out and do everything, but we managed it. And like I said, deliveries have been brilliant for us and with us. They've been very good.
Were there any tasks that Sophie would hand to you, being pregnant or having just had a baby?
Well, I couldn't breastfeed, so that was the first time.
I meant horsey ones.
Oh, horsey ones, okay.
But good to know that you haven't tried.
I did have to ride a bit more because Sophie would sort of do obviously she'd ride her own horse because she'll say I'm too heavy to ride him. Plus, I'm not a fan of riding him anyway.
You're not a fan of him at all, are you?
He's not a fan of me, so it works both ways in that respect. But when he's got no one else, he quite likes me. So he's one of them. Yeah. But I would have to ride the hunters more so than Sophie, because obviously she was either heavily pregnant or just had Olive, and there was a few complications, so she couldn't really ride for a few months anyway, which added to my load. But Sophie's load was added to as well by having a baby, so it worked out. We tend to work quite well, swim along together quite nicely. Even if potentially we don't always notice what the other one does, we do seem to do it quite well.
Seem to get along without too many stresses.
Good.
We just talked about Oscar, Sophie's horse. How do you think he has adapted to her having another child? Because he was the first.
Yeah, he's unbelievably. He probably did actually realise that he'd been pushed aside to start with, but he's been very good, and he's quite a soft and gentle horse, to be fair. Very soft and quite gentle. And he's been very good. And Sophie, he's quite an easy horse to deal with. He gets a bit fresh, and he's not always the easiest to ride. But if Sophie doesn't want to ride him for a couple of weeks and then just gets on him, he's absolutely fine. So it works having a nice horse like that, rather than just thinking that I've got to rough him off for 6 months because I can't ride him. You can just pull him out of the field and sit on him, even though he's an ex-race horse and he isn't the easiest to ride. Sophie gets on well with him and knows him well. So
they are peas in a pod, aren't they? Really?
Yeah.
They're very similar in a lot of personality traits.
Very manic. Neither of them really like a wash or brushing their hair. It's a bit mental.
We've said too much.
But yeah, so they are quite similar, yeah.
And
neither of them like me.
Neither of them like you. Were there any times that you felt anxious or nervous for Soph to get back on after having Olive?
Yeah, to be fair, I wanted her off as soon as possible. She rode for longer than I wanted her to, and when she was pregnant, sorry. And then I kind of spoke to the woman that has the hunters, the landlady, and just said, can you have a word and just say that she shouldn't really be riding them anymore? Because it wasn't too late, too far along, but it was far along enough for me. And then when she came back, she kept on stressing that she wanted to ride. I think she just bored, and no, that's probably wrong, not bored, but she wanted a bit of fresh air and wanted to get out, which is, you want her to show an interest in what she always showed an interest in as part of the whole having a baby anyway. So I was pleased with that, but she just probably did it. She rode once and then realised it was too soon, and then maybe a month later rode again, and then she was fine. But obviously if she gets hurt, and Olive's was purely breastfed, so just needed to make sure she was safe on what she was doing. But yeah, she got back on when she wanted to, and she was happy doing it. So
yeah, I think it's that sort of sense, speaking as a person that's done it, it's that sense of normality, getting back to your own life.
Yeah.
You've had a baby and your whole life has changed, but it's that sort of remembering who you are.
Yeah. And I think probably it just shows it's quite a healthy thing, I think, if you want to go out and do it. If you suddenly decide you don't want to do all the things you've always done, then it's probably not the healthiest. And I was really pleased that Sophie, as much as she threw herself into Olive and did throw herself into her, she still wanted to go out and ride and get out and do the horses and things. So yeah, from that point of view, it was nice to see.
This is the question everyone's always going to be waiting to hear the answer from, because none of us have the answer. How do you guys juggle horses and a baby on a day-to-day basis?
Again, I think it works okay for us because we're both horsey, so we can both deal with it. I think if you're a couple where your partner probably isn't horsey, or he or she's out working, and they're in an office or something all day long, it's probably very difficult. I work with horses all day long, so, and my job is as well. They're very good and reasonably pretty flexible. That if I say I've got to have I've got to finish early or I've got to start late because I need to ride because Sophie can't, then that works. And also I'm quite happy, obviously, to have Olive take her out, and I'll even go down the field and watch Sophie ride because we both do the same thing. We're both happy doing the same thing. So for us, it works reasonably well. It's difficult still because there's only so many hours in the day that you can do things, but it does work, I think, because we're both horsey.
And I've got this question that I would ask most people: do you take your children to the yard? I think we know the answer to this one.
Yeah, we live on our yard, so if we don't take her to the yard, we don't leave the house. Yeah, she's always over there. We've got an old ancient pony called Maggie that she's had to sit on. We walk her around the yard a few times, which is nice, and she actually really enjoys it as much as a 1-year-old can. She's always sort of laughing and smiling, and then when you take her off, she wants to get back on. So that's good.
Oh dear, Daddy. Daddy's another pony in sight, probably after Maggie.
She can have Sophie's racehorse when that's finished, which is old.
So we talked a little bit about how you juggle it, but is there a particular roles in the household that you guys take on? So obviously Sophie for a while was doing all the feeding because she could do it. You couldn't do it.
No.
But are there other things that you guys split pretty categorically, or is it all quite fluid?
It's all quite fluid, I think, to be honest. I tend to do I tend to be the cook, the chef, if you like. I do most of the evening meals, because Sophie's bathing Olive or putting her down or whatever. But generally we just like I say, we work as a team, and it does work quite well. And everything seems to get done. So we're lucky enough to have a log burner. I don't let Sophie deal with that because she'll burn the house down. Other than that, no, I think we're good.
And do you have any, I guess, chores or jobs that you love doing with Olive the most?
I actually like being in the kitchen with Olive because I put her in the high chair next to close to the work surface, and she watches me, and she'll eat a little bit of a bit of fruit or a biscuit while I'm cooking, and she quite enjoys it. The music on.
Kitchen dance parties?
Yeah, Sophie Ellis. Yeah, we do. We do actually. In fairness, and Olive loves it. So yeah, I enjoy that. And on the Sunday mornings, I don't ride out, so that's my morning where I can have her downstairs. Sophie will go and ride in the morning, and I'll have her downstairs and give her breakfast and what have you. And so I get to spend a few quality hours just on my own, because a lot of the time when I'm here, we're both here. And it's a day when I'm not too tired on a Sunday, because I like to just lay there.
You had a little bit of a rest. And how would you describe Olive in personality?
Intelligent, cheeky, and loud. She's very smiley, very happy. I know everyone says that about the baby.
Oh, I don't think they
do. But she's very smiley, very happy. And yeah, just try and keep her that way. Really, don't give her anything to worry about. She's very happy. So.
Do you see a sort of an equal blend of yourself and Soph in her, or does she take after one or other of you more?
I think there's an equal blend, in fairness. When we take her out and she's a bit unsure, she turns into me, and she goes a bit sort of within herself a little bit to start with. But when she's in the house and she's very confident and very loud. It's like Sophie. Yeah, she is. I think she is probably an equal blend.
That's nice.
And hopefully she'll stay that way.
That's nice. Have you had... What has been your biggest personal challenge with parenthood so far, and why?
I don't know. Probably just in terms of actually looking after Olive, probably just confidence to do it. Because I've got a couple of nieces and nephews, but generally speaking, I haven't been around newborns and 1-year-olds. So just the confidence to actually hold her and change her and clothe her and just actually be around having a baby and get your head around it, I suppose, was a challenge and is a constant challenge.
I guess it's like not knowing what you don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
when you first do something, you're kind of a bit scattery, and you don't really know. You don't know what's going to happen next or how something might react.
yeah. And everyone always says, "Oh, I wish I could go back to to the early years." And I says, "Whereas you probably don't know." But now Olive's just turning 1. It'd be nice to go back to when she was 3 months old, and I've got photos of her just sat on my arm, resting on my shoulder, and she's tiny, and so you always look, I suppose, at those sorts of things. But the horses, it's just muscle memory. The horses, it's very easy for me. I've done it for years, so it's more the Olive side of it that was the challenge for me, rather than juggling it. So,
and I've got 2 more questions. You'll be thrilled to know. How did your expectation of early parenthood compare to how it actually was? Did you go in with any preconceived ideas and then it changed along the way?
no, I don't think I did. I think we weren't. We didn't really know what to expect, and I think it was more just blind panic, to be honest. And so that hasn't really changed. There's still blind panic, and we just sort of, we just get on with it as best we can. I think we're doing a good job. But yeah, well, I know we're doing a good job. But no, I don't. I don't think I had any, because we didn't know whether we were having a boy or a girl. So, and that, it doesn't matter either way, but it does change the way things work out in the end. 'Cause we live with the horses, but there's also tractors around, and Olive doesn't show an interest in the tractors. And we've had friends with kids coming around who are more interested in the tractors than the horses. They genuinely don't even look at the animals. Whereas Olive, we've taken her off to the wildlife parks and all the farms around here, and she loves all the animals. So I think she'll definitely be horsey. So I don't think there was any preconceptions or anything that I had.
Last question. Finally, do you have any advice for expecting equestrian parents?
Really, I suppose maybe just go with the flow. I think you just got to, we've had situations with the horses getting injured or colicking and all these sorts of things. And I think if you spend too much time panicking about things on the yard, it sort of knocks onto things in the house. And I think you've just got to just go with it. I think horses, you go with the flow anyway, most of the time. Well, you should anyway. You should always be relaxed around them, and you should never be too tensed and stressy, because they feed off that. And also, I think that's the same with the baby. And I think if you just, personally, I think you just got to be as relaxed as you can through the whole situation. Just wing it. Can't do anything else, really, can you? That's all I'm doing. Still winging it.
I think that's really very solid advice. So that's it. That's our interview together. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode from the Equestrian Mums Club. It's been great to have you along for the ride. Just remember, you can let us know your thoughts and feedback by submitting a review directly through your podcast streaming provider, so Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or you can get in touch with us via the socials at Equestrian Mums Club on Instagram or Facebook, or you can send us an email, hello@equestrianmumsclub.co.uk. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.